Hey everyone, welcome to another one today with Kings. Okay, so like we tend to do, we have a little chat to kind of decompress from the day that we've had. And today's one, I was thinking we could talk about the fear that we tend to have when it's time for bed. And for a lot of us, this could resonate in the sense that we enjoy having the daylight. I went through this myself where it was always amazing to see bright light because everything else, your fear of being alone, your fear of being not heard, your fear of being disconnected from whatever network you've built is is kind of temporarily halted when there is daylight because you can continue to mask whatever it is that you're struggling to deal with at that time. So let's reel it back a little bit. How's your day been? Have you had a good day? Would be my first question. And if you have, I hope that as good a day you've had, you can also have a good night tonight. And the reason for that is because we all need a good rest. And we don't rest enough, do we? And the reason we don't rest enough is because we are constantly chasing, I think. We're always chasing the next thing. It doesn't matter what it is, but we just want to be seen to be chasing something. Imagine being a sprinter or a runner. Maybe that would be the best one to use. A runner that is not quite sure which place they fit in. So you've got the 100 meters, you've got the 200 meters, you've got the 1,500 meters, you've got the marathon, you've got all of these races that you could fit into. But because you haven't quite identified where you fit, you try to do all of them. How overwhelming could that potentially be? This is a little ramble, by the way. It's kind of like going back and forth. But the bottom line, you it still sticks. Just bear with me for a moment. The reason I say this in terms of identifying that is because yes, we're amazing people. Yes, we're incredible people. We can do whatever we put our mind to. But we have to put our mind to something. And this goes back to what I said initially. Fear. We're so afraid of failing that we think it's best to pitch our tent with everything. Okay? I like property. Yeah, let's do a little bit of that. Oh, I like doing YouTube. Let's do a little bit of YouTube. Oh, actually, I like doing YouTube, but I like doing all of this other stuff as well. That's along. Let's do a bit of that. And we end up stretching ourselves so thin that we end up doing nothing. Your day could potentially have been one of those. Or has it been? The reason I ask this is because was our definition of a good day? Is a good day being that you haven't been told off today? Because, yes, for some people that haven't been in that situation, we adults do still get told off. If, which is incredibly silly, isn't it? Because you sometimes work with some people that are unable to understand the art of communication and interaction, adult interaction, rather they fall into that parent and child mode. Because they're a parent, they feel that because somebody doesn't quite get what they're doing or what they're saying, they need to treat them like children. And the person that's been treated as a child because whatever it is that they're experiencing reminds them of something that they've experienced as a child. It takes them back to that position where you automatically become a child for that person. And every time you see them or you fall back into that position and they automatically, you have this parent child dynamic, which is not healthy because we're dealing with two adults and there is this level of dependency that kind of comes in. You become de-skilled to a certain extent that you feel you need to run everything by this individual because they've de-skilled you, they've made you feel as though you're not capable of doing the thing that you've been hired to do. You're hired as an expert. You're hired as somebody that is skilled enough to perform a certain task. But somehow you've lost of all of those abilities just because you happen to have come into contact with this person. It doesn't always have to be like that because the problem that comes with this is that we sometimes take this away with us, our frustration and anger and resentment back with us, and we bite and chew ourselves up at night time, which causes us to feel restless and unable to settle. Where are you sitting right now? And what is it that you're replaying in your head right this moment? Does any of this make sense? And if it does, why this moment when it's time to sleep would be the question you need to ask yourself. Why now? And what is replaying it over and over again going to achieve? If we can answer that question, then we can then give ourselves time to be able to say, okay, we've dealt with this. Now it's time to deal with this. So it's about compartmentalizing things, isn't it? We're not saying we shouldn't deal with it because it's been a stressful day and you're scared of getting fired potentially. But does that person know that they're doing that? Or have they just been built or into this role of this is how I behave? And for that person that's doing that, why are they doing it? Because sometimes when we try and understand people, we then are able to tailor our own approach to be more in line with what we need and want to achieve, really. What took us in here, into this company? What were we hoping to achieve? Have we been able to achieve that? Is it looking likely that we're able to achieve that? Because if it's not, then maybe the question is that the right place for us to be? Again, fear. Fear that we'll never get anything. Just like fear like we'll never fall asleep. Fear that we're going to be up all night. Fear that if I don't get enough done today, then somebody's going to say something tomorrow. But doing all of this, is that helping? Because who gets tired the next day? Within that time, that's working hour of 9 to 5 or 6 to 2 or 2 to 10 or 12 or 8 to 8, whatever the timeline is where you're meant to be at your peak performance, which is the hours that you're getting paid for. If you've ran yourself to the ground and you're not able to perform within those periods, would whatever criticism that comes in that time be more valid rather than getting some rest and being peach or top, to a certain extent, top form? We need to ask ourselves these questions. Way up. We're not saying we can't do the extra hours. Of course we can. We can do the extra work because we need to complete some of this extra work. Or sometimes what my experience has been is that when it becomes a daily thing, what happens when you don't do it that one day? Because you've built this routine of doing it. I suppose the question you need to ask ourselves is, if you're consistently performing at 110%, what happens in the emergency time when you need to actually perform within that time? There'll be nothing else to give because that's been your lifestyle. And when emergency comes, we get kicked back. We feel as though we are incapable of performing when it isn't necessarily the case, but instead we've built bad habits of always doing that. Bad habits are easy to kind of build but difficult to break because we feel that's the way things are done. It comes back to fear. If I don't do it, it would not be possible. But the thing there is, we need to break that fear, because whilst fear pushes us to kind of get in our way, sometimes we could use that for good. I really need to get some sleep tonight, because if I don't, that project tomorrow is not going to get achieved. That's using fear in a positive light, isn't it? That project needs to be done tomorrow. Worrying about it right now is not going to achieve it tomorrow. But if we can get that sleep, we can make it happen tomorrow. Tomorrow will bring its own challenges. We don't need to transfer some of today's one over there, because we're not there yet. We can't do anything about that. Fear needs to be a tool that we can weaponize for our own good. Fear needs to be a tool that we use for growth. I'm afraid that if I don't gain this knowledge for this or that, I won't be able to achieve the height that I want to get to in this organization. I'm afraid that if I don't study enough, I'm not going to be able to pass the exam. But what does study enough look like? Compartmentalizing, in the sense that the exam is going to be about A, B, C, D. Have we covered what we need to cover within that? And are we resting enough at the same time? Of course, there are ways, there are times that you can overrest sometimes. In these busy days, I don't think there's any such thing as overresting. Maybe some people still do it. But if you're listening to this, I don't think you do, which is why you're listening. Feeling revitalized is a gift. And sometimes it's a gift that we don't get enough of, because we don't put ourselves in that position to receive that. We feel potentially because that people have always spoken so negatively about us. Anybody that speaks positive about us must be after something. Fear. What are you after? Nobody's always ever nice without an ulterior motive. It is possible that there could be an ulterior motive, but also it's also possible that it's just genuine kindness. Because we're not kind to ourselves, we don't, and we think about pleasing everybody else. We leave ourselves behind, but the gift we can give ourselves is that kindness, not being afraid to look after you. You matter. And it's important that as you shut your eyes for the night and hear this, what I want us to all take away from this is that you matter. It doesn't matter what anybody else says about it. There's a saying that says that nobody can hurt you without recognition. Criticism comes in various forms. People have got mouth to say whatever they want to say. We've got ears to listen, but we're also able to be selective of what it is that we are absorbing into our system. Yes, you're rubbish. Okay, that's your opinion, not mine. If you think I'm rubbish, that's your opinion. I don't think I am. And what are these people hoping to achieve by doing this? Is it necessarily about you, or is it about them? Being afraid to critique the voices that we hear. We should critique it. And we should try and quantify what it really means for us. Is it true that if I don't get to sleep, I'll be tired tomorrow? What do you think? Is it true that if I don't do my job, I might not have the job tomorrow? What do you think? Is it true that what that person said about me not being good at what I do, is that true? If the question is, did you get the job from being able to evidence what you do? What do you think? You had to attend an interview to be able to get this job, to then hold the position. You had to sell yourself to people that didn't know you. And if you were able to convince these people to hire you, what do you think? Do you think what this person is saying to kind of degrade you and make you feel worthless is worth paying attention to? Or is the evidence of how you've got to where you have worth considering? Is it true that I would never achieve the goals that I set for myself? My question to you would be, what are the goals that you've achieved so far? And have you achieved them despite people telling you that you can't? Even though you were afraid that it is not possible because other people have told you that. Sometimes the evidence are right in front of our eyes. We overlook them to look for that one negative thing that somebody has said. And we ignore the 99 positive stuff that are right in front of our eyes. Just imagine this. If we flip the switch, you brighten some light in there, will that one negative thing really matter within the 99 stuff that have worked so well? We're not saying to acknowledge it. It's there. it was said. Okay? Interesting. That's the view that that person has. They don't know you like you do. So as we relax, we're going to give ourselves a couple of minutes to just stop the process of worrying about everything that we've got no control over and focus on that thing of which we have, which is right now we're trying to say goodnight. We're going to grab ourselves a glass of milk or water, whichever one you want. Put some music on or sound, rain sound, or whatever sounds that you like to listen to. And we're just going to fill the space up with that as you say goodnight. Unless you've been able to get to the end of this and you're ready fast to sleep, then I'll see you tomorrow. Until next time, people, it has been Kings.